my whole life. I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to go to law school. That was my only dream. So I finally went to college. I went to a school called East Carolina University. It took me 5 years to graduate with a 2.0, barely got through school because of my dyslexia. Struggled academically, got my degree, and now it was time to apply to law school. And I knew I wasn't going to go to Harvard or Yale or Princeton. I knew I wasn't going to go to some prestigious Ivy League law school. So I researched. There's 435 accredited law schools in North America. I just had to find one that would accept me. And so I researched, of the 435 accredited law schools, what are the bottom 37 law schools in the country? Like, what are the easiest 37 schools? And I applied to those 37 schools. And the reason why it was 37 schools was after working for Up With People for all those years, making like $250 a month, I've saved up $4,000 to my life savings. Each application back then was about $150, so I can only afford to apply to 37 schools. I never shared this story with anybody. Part of sharing people your who and telling your story is being vulnerable. I was always afraid about being vulnerable. I was always afraid to tell people about my dyslexia and failing schools and failing grades and summer schools and struggling. I was always afraid to share this story. And when I wrote the story in my first book and became a bestseller, I've literally received thousands of letters from people all over the world loving the story I'm about to share with you. These are the 37 rejection letters of the worst law schools in North America. Every single one of them rejected me. I didn't even know there was like 37 ways to politely tell someone to go take a hike, but here's the trend. I regret to inform you. I regret to inform you. I regret to inform you. I cannot offer you position. Unfortunately, the limited size. I'm genuinely sorry. Unable to accept you. I'm sorry to inform you. This was my favorite one from Mercer University. This was a difficult decision. Yeah, bullshit, not a difficult decision. I'm dyslexic, I can't read. 37 of the easiest law schools, every single one of them rejected me. I make fun of myself now. I tease myself about it, but that was a really tough time in my life. Having my one dream of going to law school, and every single law school rejected me. Thank God that I had people in my life that believed in me and breathed belief in me. And so here's my who. These two people are the two people that changed my life. These two people are my who, are the reason why I'm on this stage today. This is Helen and Anthony Dirkwani. These are my grandparents from Italy. They were hairdressers in White Plains, Newark. They were married for 55 years. They were totally in love. My grandfather would cut the hair, and my grandmother would style it and wash the hair in this small little apartment. And down below their apartment, they had a little studio called Helen Anthony's Hairdressing Studio for 47 years of their 55 years of marriage. They truly loved each other. Every time I saw them, they were hugging and kissing, and I'm just absolutely quite certain that they still had an active sex life until they're in their 80s. And Lord, I hope those genes come down to me. But my grandparents just modeled love. They modeled it. It was such a beautiful thing as a young boy growing up with my grandparents. He wasn't a CEO, he wasn't wealthy, he wasn't a politician, he wasn't an entrepreneur, he was a hairdresser. But I learned more about servant leadership from him than anybody. After 55 years of marriage, my grandmother had a massive stroke. She went to spend the rest of her life in a nursing home in Connecticut. And the physical therapists and occupational therapists all gave up on her. She was never to be walked again. My grandfather couldn't take that fate, so he became her occupational therapist. He became her physical therapist. And every day at 7 o'clock in the morning, he'd show up at the nursing home. He'd wait for the doors to be open. He'd run right to Helen. He'd work on her legs. He'd massage her. He spent 12 hours a day from 7 to 7, 7 days a week. The general manager of the nursing home finally gave my grandfather a key to let him in the nursing home because he was the only person waiting outside every morning at 7 o'clock. 2 years later, my grandmother did walk again, thanks to my grandfather's love and unconditional love. Unfortunately, months after that miracle of her walking again, my grandfather got diagnosed with a brain tumor. He had a tumor the size of a golf ball in his brain, and he was on his last days, and we hired hospice. We went to his home, and his 4 daughters, his 14 grandkids, and all his nieces and nephews around his bedside to say goodbye. I'll never forget what I saw. We're all going around the table telling Papa how much we loved him. Papa, we love you. Anthony, we love you. Dad, we love you. And here's where his last words were. Stop telling me you love me. Don't tell me you love me. Show me you love me. And then he closed his eyes and went to heaven. And for years, I wondered what my grandfather meant by don't tell me you love me, but show me you love me. And this is the cornerstone of what servant leadership is all about. This is the cornerstone of leading from heart is all about. Don't tell me what you're going to do, but show me what you're going to do.